Good morning, students. Today our topic is Python tuple, and in this lecture we are going to discuss some key features of Python tuples. So, what is tuple? Python tuple is used to store the sequence of immutable Python objects. And as we know that when we compare Python tuple with list, then list contain basically mutable Python objects, and Python tuple contain immutable Python objects. So the tuple is similar to the list since the value of the items stored in the list can be changed, whereas the tuple is immutable. That means, and the value of the item stored in the tuple cannot be changed. So that is the basic difference between the tuple and the list. In list, we can easily change the item of the list, but in tuple, we cannot change the item of a list. So that is the basic difference between a Python tuple and a list. Both are similar because both stored different data items, whether the items are integer numbers or float numbers or even strings. So all the data types can be stored, all the different data items can be stored in tuple as well as in list. But the basic difference is that okay, uh, in list we basically change different data items, but in tuple, because tuples are immutable data types, so we cannot able to replace any data item of a tuple. So that is the basic difference between the tuple and a list. Now second question is how we can create a tuple. What is the procedure of creating a tuple in Python programming language? So a tuple can be written as a collection of comma separated values enclosed within the small bracket, or we can say the parenthesis sign. So we know that when we declare a list we use the square bracket sign, but for tuple we use parenthesis sign or small bracket sign, and all the data items are separated by a comma. So within the small bracket we can write different elements of a tuple and separate all these elements by comma. Parentheses are optional, but it is good practice to use. So if we don't use parenthesis sign, then also it is a representation of a tuple. With most of the time we use parenthesis to represent a tuple. So there is a small example here. We show how we can create a tuple. You can easily see on the screen T1, T2 and T3. These are the three tuples. First of all, let us talk about T1. We can see here that there are three elements, 101, Peter and 22. So all these three elements are separated by a comma sign, and 101 and 22 are integers and Peter is a string. So different types of data are there in a tuple, and all the data elements are separated by a comma sign, and all these three elements are enclosed within a parenthesis. Next is a T2. T2 is again a tuple which contain three different data items. All of them are string, apple, banana and orange, and there is a symbol of parenthesis. So all the data elements are inside the parenthesis sign. So this is tuple T2. Next is tuple T3. Now it is a little bit different when we compare it with T1 and T2 because there is no parenthesis sign here, and we just write five different elements. So as I told you that parentheses are optional, so it is also a tuple. So when we print T1, T2 and T3, so all of them are tuple. Now you can easily see that here we just type the type the T1, type T2, type T3. Type T1 means what is the type of T1? Is it a integer number, it is a float number, or is it a tuple or a list? So basically type tell the user what is the type of the particular identifier or a variable here. So when we just execute this program, then answer will be a data type, or what is the data type of T1, T2 and T3 here. So let us try to execute this program. First of all, go to Python 3.3, 3.3 and 3.2.7 are two Python version that I installed in this computer. So just go to Python 3.3 here, and then go to IDLE, Integrated Development Language Environment. Then interactive mode is there. Just go to that script mode, taking new file, write a program here. Program is already written, so we just perform a copy paste operation here. Then execute the program. First of all, save the program. py is the extension, and then run the program. You can easily see that class tuple, and class tuple. So all of them are tuple here, which we can easily see here. So the main point is, if we don't use parenthesis sign to define a tuple, then there is no error at all, or it is considered to be a tuple. So that is the output. So parenthesis is optional. If you don't use parenthesis sign, then it does not affect the output. If you take a variable and just give different values to a single variable separated by a comma, and always remember that it is a tuple. Now you can easily see here all of them are tuple. So three different types of representation here. In first, we can see that there are two numbers and a string. In tuple 2, all the integers numbers are in parenthesis sign, but in tuple 3, T3, which is T3, there is no parenthesis sign. Instead, that is also a tuple. So parenthesis sign is optional to represent a tuple. That is the main point. There is an important point that tuple which is created without using parentheses is also known as tuple packing. So we already implement it, tuple packing, in our program. Second question, how we can create an empty tuple? Very simple. Just take a variable name and then assign empty parenthesis sign here. You can easily see on the screen that empty tuple will be there. Next, if there are only single element, then how we can create a tuple who have only one element? So it is also very simple. You have to do only one thing. Just write the name of that element. Just write that element, and after that put a comma sign. Then it will create a tuple. If you don't put a comma sign, then it is not considered as a tuple, even it is written within a parenthesis sign. So if there is only single element, then write that element, and after that put a comma sign. So using this method, you can easily create a tuple with single element. Always remember that even if you use parenthesis sign, but just write a single element, and after that if you don't put any comma sign, then it is not considered as a tuple. So to create a tuple with single element, always use comma after that element. That will create a tuple with single element. And to create a empty tuple, just write a parenthesis sign without writing any element within it. It will create an empty tuple. So these are the two methods to show how to create an empty tuple and how to create tuple with single element. Now I think concept is clear to all of you, how to create an empty tuple and how to create a tuple with single element. Now here a small program is here. You can easily see that tup1 is a variable contains java point within a double quotes marks and within parenthesis marks, and if you want to print the type of that tup1 variable, then we just write a statement print tup type 1, and after that we take a variable tup2, but here use a comma sign here and then print that statement. So let us try to execute this program. What is the output? Let us check it. You can easily see that first one is a string and second one is tuple. Why first one is a string and second one is a tuple? It is because in first variable tup1, especially when you talk about tup1, then there is sign of parenthesis and there is single element within it, and it is a string written within a double quotes marks, but there is no comma sign after that, so it is considered as a string. So type of the tp1 is a string because we put no comma sign after that variable. But in case of tup2, we can easily see that java t-point is a string and we put a comma sign after that, so it is considered as a tuple. So as I told you earlier that if you want to create a tuple with only a single element, then just write comma sign after that element. It is mandatory. Without this you are not able to create a tuple which have only single element. The next point is a tuple is indexed in such a way as a list, and the item in the tuple can be accessed by using that specific index value. So indexing is same as we use in list. So as far as indexing is concerned, indexing and slicing, same method is used, that is used for a list. So a tuple is indexed in the same way as in the list, that is the first point, and the items in the tuples can be accessed by using their specific index value. And we always know that index value always start from value 0, index value 0 and then 1 then 2, and there is concept of negative indexing also, which always start from -1 in just reverse direction. So here is the point, tuple indexing and slicing. So the indexing and the slicing in the tuple are similar to the list. The indexing in the tuple starts from 0 and goes to length tuple -1. It means if element any tuple contain 10 elements, then it goes up to 9, because length of the tuple is in that case 10 and 10 minus 1 is 9. And why it is so? Because we start counting from 0. Second, the items of the tuple can be accessed by using the index square bracket operator. Okay, so Python also allow us to use the colon operator to access multiple items in the tuple. So if we want to access more than one item at the same time, then we use colon sign within a square bracket, and then we can easily access more than one item at the same time. And there is a small example here to show how to index and slicing about a tuple. There is a tuple which contains 6 different elements, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can easily see on the screen. And now here we can easily see the different index positions of different elements, and how we can slice a tuple here. So first of all, always remember that counting always starts from 0 when we talk about indexing, and it goes up to length tuple minus 1. And if you want to access more than one element, it means multiple items at the same time, we can use uh, square bracket with colon sign. And this is a small example here. You can easily see that tuple 0 1 2 3 4 5, these are the 6 elements here, starting from 0 and goes up to 5. So 6 elements are there. If we want to access its first element, then using indexing, we just write name of the tuple first and within square bracket index position. So for first element, index position is 0, you can easily see on the screen. And after that, we just get the first element. So here we can easily see that tuple 0 is 0, tuple 1 is 1, tuple 2 is 2, tuple 3 is 3, tuple 4 is 4, tuple 5 is 5. Now talking about slicing. So basically slicing contains 3 different arguments: start position, after that colon, then after we just put end and position, and then after we just use after colon increment or step value. So if we write 0 colon, it means counting start from 0 and goes up to last elements. So in that case, we can access the all elements of a tuple. So the answer will be 0 1 2 3 4 5, all elements are there of tuple. And if we don't mention any value, just write colon there, then by default there is an increment of 1, and by default start value is 0, and by default by default if no end value is given, then all element can be accessed. Then it will start from 0 and goes up to 5. You can easily see that tuple colon is that their answer. And always remember that when we just put an end value, then the element at the end value is not considered. You can see here in when we talk about tuple 2 colon 4. So element at position 2 is 2, at position 3, index position 3 is 3, but here we don't consider a value at index position 4, which is 4. Okay, so there are only 2 elements, 2 and 3. Next is tuple 1 colon 3. So only 2 elements are there at index position 1, which is 1, at index position 2, which is 2. And when we talk about tuple colon 4, it means counting starts from first element, that is from 0, and then 1, then 2, and then 3. And here we don't consider element at last index position, that is at index position 4. So 4 is not there. So that is the concept of indexing and slicing of a tuple, which is similar to that of the list. So when we compare tuple and list regarding the slicing and indexing, so method, we found both methods are same in that case. There is another example here in which you can easily find the element at different position. So a tuple contains 7 elements, starts from 1, and these elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we want to find out an element whose index value is not given here or out of the index, then what happens? In such case, there is an error, index out of range. Here in this case, we can easily see that there are total 7 elements, and as we know that always index position or index values always start from 0. So there are total 6 index positions here or index values here. And if we want to access tuple 8, and then tuple 8 there is no value at all, so there is an error, tuple index out of range. And for tuple 0, tuple 1, tuple 2, there are certainly value. So when we just print that statement, so regarding to index value 0, regarding to index value 1 and 2, there are certain values which will be print You can easily see that at index position 0, 1 is there, at index position 1, 2 is there, at index position 2, 3 is there. So 1, 2, 3 will be your answer after the execution of that statement. And when we just want to print tuple index position 8, then there is an error. So in the above code, the tuple 7 elements which denotes 0 to 6. So we try to access an element outside of tuple, that is an index error. That is our second program regarding to slicing of a tuple. Same tuple here contain different 7 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you want to access elements from position 1 and onwards, means up to last, then we just write print tuple 1 colon. After colon sign, if we don't mention any end value, that it means it goes up to the last element. And when we want to access element from 0 index position to up to 3rd index position, then we just write print tuple, and within a square bracket we don't mention any initial value or any start value. It means counting always start from 0 index position, and we have to access first 4 element, it means up to index position 3. So we give here 4 because last value is not included in that case. And for element 1 to 4 element, we just write tuple 1 colon 5. So the concept is very simple. If we don't mention start value, counting always start from first element, it means at index position 0. If we don't mention any end value, then counting always goes up to the last element. And if we don't mention any step value, then by default step value is 1. In this case, you can easily see that print 0 colon 6 colon 2. So step value is 2. So only 3 elements are there. In last case, you can easily see that 1 comma 3 comma 5 is the answer because step value is 2 in this case. So Python take every second element, start from first element. First element is 1, and that then 2 will not be printed in that case. 3 is there, 4 is not there, and then at last 5 is there. And this process is going up to the index position 5 here. Next, negative indexing. Concept of negative indexing is also there. So last element, we denote last element by -1, index position -1, second last element by -2. So this is a representation. Negative indexing is we just use the reverse. We can access the element in just reverse direction, then that is called the negative indexing. And negative indexing always start from position -1, -2. So let us take an example, or we can say that from left to right traversal. Generally we take right to left traversal, but in negative indexing we just take left to right traversal during the negative indexing. And first, I always remember that in negative indexing, counting always start from -1. That means last element is the value index position of the last element is -1. Now let us see the example which explain the functionality of negative indexing. Tuple 1 is a tuple containing 5 different elements start from 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the elements of a tuple 1. And if we just print tuple within a square bracket, if we just write the index position -1, then what is the answer? Answer will be 5, because 5 is the last element. And we just try to print tuple 1, and within a square bracket, if we just write -4, then we can easily see that index position of 5 is -1, 4 is minus 2, 3 is minus 3, 2 is minus 4. So 2 will be printed. And we can also apply slicing in this case. So if we just print tuple 1 minus 3 colon minus 1, then at index position minus 3, 3 is there, and index position minus 1, 5 is there. And as we know that when we want to slice a tuple, then element at last index position is not included in that case, so answer will be 3 and 4. And second last print statement we can easily see on the screen. Print tuple 1 colon minus 1. So counting always start from first element, and last element is minus 1. That means we take all element except last element here in this case. And last statement is print tuple 1 minus 2. So counting always start from counting starts from here second last element and goes up to the last element, because after colon no end value is mentioned, so only two elements 4 and 5 will be printed in that case. So that is the answer. So when we talk about indexing and slicing, that is very much similar to that of the used in list. Actually there is no difference in terms of slicing when we talk about tuple and list. That is same for both of them. Slicing and indexing, method of slicing and indexing same for list and tuple here. So this is the answer after the execution of that statement. You can also execute this program on your computer screen, but before, just write the output. That gives you a clear-cut idea about indexing and slicing, because we use indexing and slicing in Python list, in Python strings, and now the same concept is applied in case of Python tuple. The concept of indexing and slicing is same for list, string, and tuple here. We just covered these three topics here, and tuple is going on. As you can see on the screen that this program belongs to the tuple. So concept is same for tuple, index, tuple, list, and string when we talk about indexing and slicing. So the concept of negative indexing is same, also same for that. And when we talk about negative indexing, always remember that then we process the element from left to right. Now our next topic is deleting tuple. As we know that tuples are immutable, that means we cannot able to change the element of a tuple. That is the basic difference between a tuple and a list also. So there is a keyword named del. So use del keyword. Del keyword is used to delete an element or a delete of a data. To delete, if we want to delete certain data, then we use a del keyword for that. But using del keyword, we are not able to delete a single element of a tuple. You can easily see on the screen there is a tuple 1 which contain 6 different elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if we want to delete its second element, it means first element, it means tuple 1, 0, or if you want to delete entire tuple, first of all let us take line by line. First line says that there is a declaration of a tuple which contains 6 elements, and second line there is a print statement which prints the tuple. Third line we want to delete the first element, and after that we give a print statement, and Next line we delete an entire tuple, and then there is a print statement. So using entire tuple is possible, but if we want to delete a particular element using del keyword, that is not possible. That gives you an error, as you can see on screen. So first line basically 1 2 3 4 5 6 in output shows the different tuple element, but if you want to delete data item of a list, then there is an error. You can easily see that trace back most recent call last files tuple.py line 4 in module print tuple 1. Name of the error, name tuple 1 is not defined. That is the regarding to the statement delete tuple. And if you just use a second last statement, you can easily see that del tuple 1, then tuple 1 will be deleted in that case. And after that, if you want to print that tuple, then error will be name error, tuple 1 is not defined, because all elements of tuple are already deleted. Okay, so two errors are there, but first error is due to the concept of immutability. It means that we cannot delete any element of a tuple. And second error is due to the concept, and second is due to the concept that tuple is already deleted, and if you want to access the element of a tuple which is already deleted, then it is not possible, then error is there. So I hope now the basic concept of tuple is now clear to all of you. So thanks for watching this video.